guys, welcome to my channel. It's Igwe behind the camera, and today we are in the Renault Clio V that has recently been introduced to us. You know, it's been a long time coming because this car was introduced around 2019, but I started seeing more of it in around 2020, but finally at least we have it. The one that we are in today is the top spec Intens model with option pack. This car comes in like 3 variants. It's either you're going to get the lower spec Live, or you get the mid-spec Zen, or the top spec Intens. To spec it the way this one looks, you have to get the option pack, which is going to give you like this big 9.3-inch screen in front of us, or you're going to get like some gloss detailing outside and chrome detailing, the black gloss rather. So to get it here, you have to pay extra 15,000 over and above the Intens model. That is just the normal Intens top spec. So this engine, I've driven in this engine before. I've driven the Nissan Magnite, which has the same engine. The Renault Kiger has the same engine. In those two cars though, there was a little bit of a difference because the Magnite has the CVT and the Kiger that I drove was not a CVT, it was a manual. And I have to say, because the Magnite has a CVT, I felt like it didn't do this engine any favors, because with low powered engines, for me, I think manual is way better. That's why I felt like the Kiger was a little bit better than the Magnite. But as well, what I'm expecting in here is that because this car now is a little bit, it's not as heavy basically than the Magnite and the Kiger, I'm expecting it to be a little bit more agile and a little bit more punchy than the other two. And as well, because you know it's sitting low, it's a hatchback, so we're expecting a little bit better. So I'll be with Ighsaan in the car from Renault Silverlakes. We're going to be driving around and then talking a little bit about some specs in the car, and he's going to be showing me this and that, of course. And then at the end, I'll give you my overall opinion. Yeah, without further ado, thank you very much for being with me on this journey, and let's go.
Edit current mode.
Oh yeah. Oh, currently the steering is in sport.
Yeah. So you can change it to regular.
Can you change it while you're driving?
We can try it as you're driving.
Oh, okay. Let's see. So everything now is on sport.
Yeah. It's not. Yeah. Let's see if the steering. Yeah. So you see, the steering is only from the MySense version.
Oh, okay.
You haven't felt any vibration on the steering wheel then?
No.
Okay, because you see there on the side, there's 3 buttons there.
Yeah.
So the one closest to the steering wheel, if you
is
press
the one
is the lane
departure warning.
Yeah, lane departure warning. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it has an advanced mode as well, so it can let you know once you're over the line. It can also let you know.
It can steer you back in.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh yeah, because I think I saw a setting here.
Yeah.
Saying how sensitive should it be or something.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, it shows how soon it should be. Yeah. That's
yeah.
Right, yeah. But if you put it on, you'll actually just feel it. There's a vibration on the steering wheel. Yeah. As you're coming closer to it, so depending on the intensity of the setting.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the other two.
The other choice is the lights.
Yes.
It's just the lights.
It's for the cluster.
And
so as you press it again, it brightens or dims it.
Yeah.
And the one furthest one is for your beams,
for the beams outside.
Or,
yeah.
That's
oh,
right.
okay.
Yeah.
This clash is kicking.
Yeah. Got speed warning as well. If you go over 90 or so, it pings.
Oh. Because I could sense that the indicator volume was actually quite low.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh yeah. Just here. This is the same engine that is in the Kaiga.
Yes.
But I think in here, this car is a bit lighter compared to the Kaiga in terms of weight.
Yes.
So I'm expecting it to be a little bit more punchy. Because I think they save like 20 kg or something, but it's not much, but...
Yeah, but your eco mode obviously cuts engine
Yes,
power.
because I can feel it now. I just wanted to put it on eco and just feel then how you will experience it. But when you turn on the car, where is it? Because that's the part that I'm struggling to understand. Is it on standard if you turn on the car?
Yeah.
Like when you turn on the car.
It comes onto my sense mode. So this one, starts up on this one,
So my sense is
my sense is like a normal.
That's the normal drive. That's the part that I was trying to understand to say. But
that's normal drive.
So the steering now is on sport.
See, it says for steering, although you're in normal my sense mode, your steering is in sport mode.
Yeah.
It's for better driving.
So I can feel that it's a bit tight. Yeah, just a bit.
Right,
So
you can play around with it to comfort, to feel that now it's got a bit more play onto it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then regular would be as perfectly standard setting.
So it will just go with...
Yeah.
I mostly prefer regular, I don't know why. As much as the stiffer steering is recommended for sport mode driving, but I find it to be like regular sometimes. It's not as heavy to the hands.
Yes. But it's got a lot of features that makes life a little easier for you.
Yeah.
Especially if you like, don't want to press too much buttons or turn any buttons like this.
But I can see even the hand reaching here is not far.
Yes.
That's a good thing. So I'm done talking to Ighsaan now, and it's time for us to talk about feelings. Okay, we're going to be talking about the car as a whole. I'm not going to just focus on the drive. I'm just going to have a conversation with you, basically. So yeah, let's start from outside, actually, because that's where you're going to be introduced to the Clio V. When you just get into the car, from the front, you'll clearly see that, okay, there are changes that were made, because when you're looking at the front end of this car, clearly the C-shaped lights that are peeling off from the main headlights, you just see that, okay, fine, this is a different Clio. But you might think it's a facelift because it's not like a revolutionary change that happened between the Clio 4 and the Clio 5. What they have done is to take the Clio 4 and make it like they modernized it. They refreshed it in a way that I can't even say modernized, because when I'm looking at the Clio 4, it's still a striking car, especially the facelifted ones. They're still looking the part, even by today's standards. I don't think it will park next to you and you'll think this is a car coming from a different century whatsoever. Thinking that this is a new generation, they had to refresh, but they didn't ruin it at all. And that's the thing that I like about them. The way the front end is, they just opened the grille a bit, did the C-shaped lights, as I said, LEDs across. I mean, thank you, Renault, for that. I mean, LEDs is something that should be a standard right now. And one thing I like about the exterior as well, the chrome beads, then the black gloss, then when you're looking at the rims, the way they interact together with this black gloss that is happening, and I understand that the other variants do not have this. But the reason I'm saying this is because I've been looking at this one and I find it to be very striking. They didn't ruin the Clio 4, and I'm grateful for that. When I'm looking at the exterior, I really can't complain when it comes to how this car has came about, because I love evolutions, man. You know, when you're moving from the previous generation to the next, let it be an evolution. And that's what I like about what they've done here. So yeah, let's go inside. Let's go inside. So coming inside, that's where I think there's a bit of a revolution rather, because there were certain things that Clio 4, actually for me, there were certain things that didn't make sense, man. But in here, okay, let's start just when you enter in the car, because obviously you're going to touch the door, and the quality is still not far off from the previous one. I don't find it to be that different on the door handles and so on. But they managed to put in like extra bits that are gonna make this car like a little bit better, because now when you're touching the doors here, you get like soft touch materials on the side, you get soft touch materials on the armrest as well by the door and so on. So those are the kind of things already that are giving you the premium vibes, because the dash as well, everything, almost every part where your hand can reach like easily, it's soft touch material. And that's the thing that obviously contributes a lot to how a person feels whenever they're in the car, whether they wanna be in this car for long or not. Because whenever you find that teen kind of feeling when you are getting into a car and closing the car, and it sounds like it's that you can feel that, yeah, now I'm in a very much, I'm just here because I'm going A to B. And that's something that I feel like they've changed a lot when it comes to this. When you get in, already the steering wheel is an improvement. I mean, like, hallelujah. I mean, I don't understand the Clio 4. Like, the only things that were on the steering wheel were your cruise control, whatever controls that you needed to do for cruise control, but the buttons were like just this heavy buttons that are happening on the left and right. You are controlling like plus and minus was in, I think on the left, on the right was like cancelling cruise control, and that's it. And the cruise control button was down by the where there's like this, what is this, handbrake, and yeah, that's just about it. I really didn't like how that steering wheel looked, especially with the buttons and stuff. So they really improved this one. I mean, this one looks the part. This is the steering wheel that I think for me can work. As much as I would prefer the volumes and controls for the main screen to be here, yeah, they didn't do that yet again. You still need to control the volume through this thing that is just behind the steering wheel. They put extra buttons there and so on. But if you're used to the Clio, you'll know about it. So overall, the leather covered steering wheel, the layout of the dash, I mean, this is an interior that now I feel they've worked hard to actually get it to where it is, because the previous one for me, there were some reservations, especially with the whole thing of cruise control. I say it again because I didn't understand why it was laid out like that. This dash, when you're looking at it now, it's a little bit raised, especially by the gear lever, and it's raised a bit because it was down, down, down. And when it's down, 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 you actually feel like you're in a budget car than when the dash, like this center console, is raised a bit. That's adding to, believe me, it's adding to some premium feeling. Now you have some armrest, which was not there before as well. It's helping a lot. And these seats, the design, the headrests actually, wow, Renault, you've done a great job with that. I really like how you've done this work when it comes to this Clio inside, because the way it's laid out, the screen, the controls for the icons, the fact that they're still physical, the buttons, and the way that you can easily just reach the screen and it's very much responsive. I'm grateful for that, because wow, I think the changes that they've made in here are actually telling a lot of story. You know, the way that you're feeling when you're touching the sun visors, when you're looking at like this roof lining that is just black, but the lights, the interior lights are LEDs, especially on the top spec, because down below they're not, unfortunately. They're LEDs. You know, looking at the back seat, the seats design as well, I can't complain much about this car. I mean, inside it's quite an amazing looking car. So I think it's really one of the great looking cars. Looking at the practicality as well, because now, like I said, they added the armrest so you can easily just fit in some stuff in there. I found the Clio to be one of the most practical cars actually, because in the market, I don't know if there's a car that has a bigger boot than the Clio. like even the previous generation one, I found it to be very, very, very generous when it comes to the boot. I mean, the boot in this car is like 301 liters. It's bigger than some of the cars that are like SUVs whatsoever. I'm looking at the Cherry Tiggo 4 Pro that I've driven. I'm looking at the Magnite. I'm looking at the Sonnet. I'm looking at the Haval Jolion as well. This boot is actually bigger than them. But this is a small hedge. So that's the thing that for me, I always found to be very impressive. Even with the previous Clio, the boot was so generous. And inside as well, I can't complain because you still get pockets of things to put whatever you want to put in the car. So practical wise, it's still a check as well. But we can't just end it there without talking about the improved tech, eh? Because there's quite a number of things that they've added in here. But notable mentions for me, I think the proximity sensing. When you're approaching the car, you know, Clio normally has this key card. When you're approaching the car now, it just opens for you even without touching the handle. You're no longer putting the card in. It's a stop-start system that just sends in the key, of course. And then wireless charging, you get it on the top spec model as well. And then ambient lighting. I mean, who doesn't love ambient lighting? That's a great thing as well. I mean, auto headlights, you know, they adjust the high beams for you. If you're putting it on bright, you know, it doesn't dazzle other drivers. It automatically takes it down so that you don't dazzle other drivers. You have Android Auto CarPlay, you know, cruise control with speed limiter. It's still maintained. I love that. Front and rear parking sensors. The front ones are only available on the top spec one, especially like the option pack one actually, where you don't need to worry about hitting that curb by the road or when you're trying to park and so on. As well, the LEDs, interior lights, top spec, you get LEDs inside. I love that. Inside and outside is just LED everything. That's a great touch as well. You know, you get this, you know, TFT screen that is just in front of you for the instrument cluster. I think overall they've done a great job when it comes to the tech improvements as well. Okay, now let's talk about something that is going to influence a lot of whether you're taking this car or not, that decision, which is the driving. With the driving on this car, I'm going to refer back to the Clio 4 with the 55 kilowatts and the 66 kilowatts engines, which I felt like the 55 was one of the worst engines for me personally, because like I said, this car is a practical one, and the more you are packing it, the more you fit in more stuff and you have people inside. That engine felt like it's not going anywhere. I felt frustrated in so many ways. The 66 kilowatts was a little bit punchy, that 0.9 engine, and it could move, but you can still feel the limitations. The confidence, you still didn't have full confidence in it. Now, with this engine, I find it to be more improved, especially because now it has more power and more torque. So for a car that is like less than 1 ton in weight, I understand that these are not like amazing figures whatsoever, but for a car that is like less than 1 ton, it's actually adequate. It gives you that confidence that, you know what, I can actually just, you know, when I see someone coming from the mirror and I want to overtake, even if it's a truck, I can say, you know what, back to 4, back to 3, and I'm in just like that. You know, so that's the thing that I find that they managed to improve. But when now I'm driving in town, I'm using a lot of the shifter, which is like, you call it a gear, you call it a gear lever, a shifter, whatever. And that's where I still have reservations. Always with the Clio, I felt like the fun is killed by the fact that it's not a smooth shifter. Their manuals are a bit hard, man. It's like it's sticking on gear, and when you have to pull it, well, like from 1 to 2, you're working a little bit harder, and that for me, it kills that fun, because that milli or whatever second that you're taking to actually pull the shifter from 1 to 2 to 3, it takes out the fun out of it. And I've always felt like a Clio is more of a straight line kind of a car than when you're finding curves and when you're cornering a lot or whatever that English says about corners, man. Yeah. But when you're turning a lot, it's giving you that thing that, you know what, I'm not necessarily made for this. So luckily for this one, it comes with steering wheel modes that when you're changing it, especially when you're putting it to sport, it's giving you that vibes that, you know what, the moment you start turning the steering wheel just a bit, the wheels are already responding. So it adds to that fun just a little bit, but it still lacks that. And I think it's because of the transmission. It's not as smooth. You know, it makes this car not to be as agile as a Fiesta. You know, the Fiesta, you can just play around with it and turn around with it like the way you want. And you know how Polo is, for example. It's so fun to drive. As much as the shifter for me in the Polo is not as smooth as the Fiestas. If you've driven a Fiesta before, you'll know what I'm talking about. So that's why I'm trying to explain that this shifter, I think for me, it's a letdown a bit. It's not that it's a deal breaker whatsoever, just that it makes this car not to be that fun that I need. I haven't driven the RS models. I don't know how the shifters are and so on. This is my opinion based on these normal cars that we drive every day. So that's the thing about it. But when you get to the highway, that's when the Clio is starting to shine a bit, because I've always found it to be like a cruiser that you can easily just do the highway, and the letdown was the engines. Now that they've improved the engine and it's growing and giving you that confidence that, you know what, you can, you know, pick up speed like quicker and so on and so on. I'm finding it that, you know what, on the highway you're going to actually enjoy your trips more than I've done before with the previous Clios, the lower engines. Now that, you know, this engine has power, you're going to find that the cruising is going to be amazing, because as well, it has a cruise control with limiter. The limiter for me is one of the best, because once you put your foot down, even if you take it as down as like far down, you're not going to be affected if you don't want to pass a certain speed. And that's the thing that I've always enjoyed with the Clio. And when it comes to the comfort that you get, you know, that's the thing that you don't necessarily experience every day in this class, né? When you're in this, there's this feeling that it's really touching the ground, it's hugging the ground, and it's ready to go. You know, I always felt like if only it had more power. And thanks to this one, I hope it's going to be a lot better for a lot more people, because it doesn't feel like a teen kind of a car. I don't know how to explain this teen feeling that I'm talking about, but there are cars that when you're closing a door, you can feel this bang. The way that it's banging, you can already feel that it's like, without the aircon, I'm really gonna feel more cold than other cars. So in the Clio, the insulation, I think it's great. When it comes to the wind noise for this class, I think it's as expected. It's not as bad. The road noise as well, especially because this one is sitting on low profile tires, but it's coming in. The insulation, I find it to be like a little bit reasonable than most actually. So overall, when it comes to the drive, those are things that I think for me, the negatives are still coming from the transmission, but overall I find that they really improved on the confidence when it comes to the engine. But this is the segment that is very much influenced by price, and we can't close this without talking about the competition, because there's quite a number of cars out there. There's still a Polo, Fiesta, I've already mentioned them. There's a Rio, there's a Mazda 2, there's a i20. You know, there's quite a number of cars out there. And in terms of pricing, I find this to be like within the range, because the range in this kind of segment is just around like maybe around 280, 290, all the way to around 380, 390 or so. So it's within, because it starts from just around 310, and then the top spec one that we are sitting in right now is 265,000. So when you're looking at the competition, I think the one that is just an outlier is the Polo actually, because I remember speccing the Life before the R-Line. The R-Line was introduced like just last week, or this week rather, and it's around what, I think if you spec it now on configuration on the website, you'll find that it's around 494, close to 500 for the Life R-Line. So it's quite a lot of money compared to what you're getting with the others, the top spec. I mean, the top spec Hyundai, you expecting to pay around 368. When I'm looking at the Rio as well, is around the same price, and then the Fiesta as well, you're looking at around 382 or 383 or so. And when I'm thinking about the engine choices as well, it's still within the range of the engine choices, because when I'm looking at the other cars as well, I think the one that is suffering is just the Rio that is coming in, even the top spec, like 73 kilowatts without a table. That's the only issue that I have with it. But it's still very much reasonable, because the kilowatts, they're still gonna work, especially when you're talking the power highway going up and so on and so on. But otherwise, looking at the other cars, you know, the engines, I mean, the Fiesta is still kicking this 92 kilowatts. The i20 as well is still kicking this at around what, I think it was around 91 kilowatts or something. The Polo is 85 kilowatts, but that engine is, I don't know how VW is putting their numbers. That is a different beast altogether. That 85 kilowatts, 200 Newton meters, it's not a child's play. I know that it's punchy, and I don't know how they do that. But otherwise, when I'm looking at the competition and what they're offering, they're not far off. So preference is going to play a key role as well. Looking at the services and warranty, most of them are just coming with like around 3-4 years of service plan, and this one is just below with 2 years service plan. But Overall, the service plan for the Clio is not that expensive. I remember that we were paying, because we had a Clio before, and we were paying around like 1.7 on the service. So it's not that bad, I think. So it's something that you might just have to consider. Otherwise, this car as a whole, you would have heard that I've said a lot of good things about it. And I don't doubt that it's still one of the best Renault products that are out there. I think that's why Renault is selling like a lot of this worldwide. It's selling a lot. I think since introduction of a Clio, they've sold more than like, what, 14, 15 million. So that's quite a lot. And as well, you know, when I'm thinking about competition and this, it's obviously one of the best when it comes to the fuel consumption. You know, Renault recently just got a reputation of a good fuel consumption. So I don't even remember checking how much it's consuming and so on and so on. But I don't doubt that it's like reasonable as well. Overall, I think this is a very good package that you're getting, especially for the price. Looking at what is happening in the market right now, I no longer complain about prices because it's crazy out there when it comes to the car prices. Everything is expensive if we have to look at our salaries and our relative incomes and so on. So yeah, overall, good product by Renault. I understand why they're selling a lot worldwide, and I think it's still going to continue to do well here. So for me, I've done my part. For you is to come and check it out and consider it with the competition and see if it's worth a shot. And what else can I say if I can't thank you for being here with me? Thank you very much for being here with me, and I am out.